Hello, everyone. This is Heathen Queen. I came on here to give uh, some information regarding red flags that women present. It's not a whole big list. I mean, there's varied red flags for people. It depends on what you consider to be very important. It depends on the person. It depends on their upbringing. It depends on many different things. So I'm saying these are the red flags that I think a man should pay attention to when he meets a woman. Number one is if she's uneducated. This is a red flag. And I'll tell you why it's a red flag. A lot of men in the red pill say, hey, she doesn't have to be educated. She doesn't have to have a good job. She doesn't have to have all of these things. And we will date her and marry her and this, that, and the third. But think about this avenue. If she's uneducated, how is she supposed to bring your children into the world and that child be able to compete in this world if she's uneducated and she doesn't understand the importance of your child being educated in this modern day world? Normally, if you're not as educated as someone who went to college, with rare exceptions, you don't make that much money. You're part of the worker bee status. So in order to give your child the leg up that you want your child to have, you want the person or the female who is influencing your children to have some level of education. That's a red flag. That should be a big red flag for men. I don't care how good looking she is. If she's dumb as a box of rocks, your children are going to probably be on that same level unless you take it upon yourself to get control of that educational aspect for your child. And most men don't. Most men leave that to their wives or their partner. Just imagine a child being raised by someone who doesn't know the difference or doesn't know how to properly uh, use hygiene or clean themselves or clean a house or do any of these things. And yet, and still, you got this person pregnant. That should be a red flag for any man on this planet who says, wait a minute. Does she just have a high school education? Is she educated? Is she educated enough to understand that she needs to educate those children that we have or make sure our children get educated? The child comes home from school and she can't help that child with homework. She's frustrated, so she's hollering at the child, screaming at the child. I saw a video where a mother was screaming at a 2-year-old child to be quiet. Who does that? What educated person does that? I'm not saying educated people don't, but a mother should have other tools besides screaming at her child, okay, to be quiet. And you want to be involved with a person who has some level of education. That's a red flag. No education is a red flag. The second one is when a woman has many baby daddies. I'm not saying a woman who has many baby daddies is uneducated or anything else. I mean, personally, I believe that because there's no reason in the modern day for a woman to run around and have so many children, specifically with different men, specifically with men who don't want to help her take care of these children. Somewhere along the line, I feel like you're uneducated, and this is the uh, plight of the woman who does not understand that she's not educated and therefore goes and changes that situation. Okay. Once you know better, you're supposed to do better. Therefore, if you understand that you just graduated or barely graduated out of high school, then you need to figure out how to educate yourself better. Okay. Back in the day, and I'm old enough to say back in the day, when women my age were not educated, or men my age were uneducated, and they barely made it out of high school, they went to training schools or vocational schools to become a plumber, to become a carpenter, they became apprentices, things like that. My understanding is, if you didn't have education when I was younger, this is what you did. You went to vocational school, or you went and you became an apprentice, or you tried to figure out how to paint. You tried to figure out how to make a living doing things with your hands, because you were so uneducated that you did not want to be book smart. Okay. And so therefore you ended up having children because you didn't know any better. You didn't know that there were ways to get birth control. No woman this day and age should have children, or should be having children, and she's not educated about her birth control choices, right? There are so many choices, maybe 16 on the market today for women who don't want to have children. There's no excuse for a woman to have children. This is a red flag for the men, because that means if she gets pregnant by you and you all have not discussed getting pregnant, that means she wants to get pregnant. And a lot of people are going to say, no, she didn't want to get pregnant. This, that. And those are very small, minute situations where a person gets pregnant and did not want to get pregnant. There are too many birth control methods on the market for a woman to get pregnant these days. She's deliberately getting pregnant. Having multiple baby daddies also it's a red flag, because it tells a man that you have no standards. It tells a man you have no discipline. You have no discipline over your body. You have no discipline over your birth rate, or getting pregnant. You have no discipline over relationships. That's what having multiple children means to a man. And he has the feeling that you can get pregnant by anybody if you're continuously getting pregnant by 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different baby daddies. That's why it's a red flag for men when they know that you have different baby daddies all across the board. Okay. It's a different story if you have 5 kids and you have one baby daddy, as opposed to 5 kids, 5 different baby daddies. That's automatically a red flag. I mean, it would be for me. So I can understand a man saying, dang, she got 5 damn kids, 5 different baby daddy. You got to deal with 5, 6, 7 different personalities in that scenario. And no man really wants to deal with that. And I get it. He just doesn't. Okay. The next red flag is her not saying what her future is looking like, or what her future looks like without you. A person has to have an outlook about their life. If you just say, oh, that's all I'm going to do is go to work and keep my head down, and I ain't got no future plans or nothing like that, that's a huge red flag. That basically means this person, this female, is just working, and she has no future to build on, or she has no thought of the future, right? She's just living in the moment. She has no plans for any kind of future endeavors. I mean, if I was a man, or if I was a woman, however the case may be, if I was a man and a woman, the only thing she told me was, look, I'm just out here trying to have fun. I ain't trying to be serious with nobody. Well, when are you trying to be serious with anybody? When is your future going to start? Have you noticed that the people whose futures are successful, whose lives are successful, they plan a lot of the things that they're doing. They plan a lot of things in their future because they want to be successful in their life. So they plan a lot of things. They plan when they're going to have kids. They plan when they want to go to school. They plan where they want to stay. They plan when they're going to do this, that, and the third. You really cannot plan for a relationship especially if you fall in love or fall or become attracted to a person. But what you can do is choose whether you're going to have a child with that person off the bat, whether you're going to choose whether you use birth control. There's many things that are red flags to men. And these are the major things that would be a red flag for me as a man. I would look at you and say, okay, men always say, well, we think of attraction first, or we're attracted first. I get it. You look at a female and you're attracted. I get it. But you also have to think, is she educated enough to educate your child? Do you want this person to be the mother of your child? Do you want her to be just a high school diploma, a person who has a high school diploma, or a person who's there's a lot of people got high school diplomas that are not educated. They dumb as a box of rocks, and they just barely made it through high school. So barely making it through high school, you already know they're going to have a low minimum wage job. Most people are going to have low minimum wage jobs if they're just barely scraping out of high school. If they get lucky enough to get into a profession where they make money, and it won't be in an office, it'll probably be in a factory, it'll probably be a laborer, it'll probably be a manager in a restaurant, probably be something like that. If they're lucky enough to do that, then fine. Work with whatever you got. But you're always supposed to be improving yourself, and you have children to raise, and you want your children to be smarter than you. Most human beings want their child to do better than what they did. And you don't give a woman a child or put a baby in a woman without knowing whether she's going to further educate your seed or further your family line, by making sure that your child can take care of itself. Most of us want to grow up, and our child grows up and our child does better than we do, and then we don't have to worry about helping our child all the time, because our child is smart enough to do what they have to do in order to get do well in this world. If a woman is uneducated, that child won't do well as a child. You want the child to have all the education and knowledge that they can to make this world work for them. And dealing with an uneducated woman, and you know she's uneducated, and you get her pregnant, that's just going to be an uneducated pregnant woman raising a child that doesn't value education. Not normally value education, not like a person who has two parents in the house, and the parents are pushing for them to be educated, pushing for them to go to college, pushing for them to continue high school, pushing for them to understand everything that comes across their path, knowing street smarts, knowing all of these things. Your child is not going to be as educated as a person who has those kind of advantages. So a red flag, uneducation is a red flag. Having many babies is a red flag. Knowing that they're not looking into the future, to have a future, to think about the future, that's a red flag. And a person who doesn't feel like slapping a person or hurting a person or putting their hands on a person or putting their hands on a child is a big deal. That's another red flag. When a person thinks it's not a big deal with you putting your hands, feet, everything on anybody. The minute I find out a person is easily swayed by slapping another person, hurting another person, putting their hands on another person, or putting their hands on a kid, I'm out. It's a red flag for me, because that means it's easily done to me. And I don't want to be hit, maimed, hurt, or anything else by a person who doesn't find it, a person who doesn't mind putting their hands and feet on another human being. These are all red flags that you should look for. If she doesn't know what she wants in her future, she doesn't know what type of man she wants. That's another red flag. How do you walk around being shitted on all the time? Like women say they get shitted on by men. How is it that you get shitted on by men all the time, and yet and still you don't understand what kind of man that you want? And stick to those standards, okay? The whole point is you have the opportunity as a man to find out what she wants in a man and behave accordingly. You watch how she moves. Great and fine. You want to get into the pants. I get it. But that doesn't mean you got to stay getting into the pants because she's attractive. There's attractive women who don't have kids, who are educated, who don't have as many flaws. I'm not saying women who have children are uh unworthy of being in relation. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you have to look at a person, or a man has to look at a person and say, or a man is going to look at a female and say, she has 5 goddamn kids, 5 different baby daddy. When did she decide that I was a good choice for her? These are the things that a man have to look at, and these are the red flags that a man has to look at. Okay? A woman who says she wants a man who makes money is not a red flag. That's not a red flag because all of us women think that way. Just like you men think a female has to be attractive in order to get what she wants, we feel like you need to have money to get what you want. We both have something, we both have a standard that we want to meet or we want to have. You guys want to have looks, we want to have a man who has money. It's the same thing. And you say, well, she can't have what she want and she ain't got no looks. Well, you can't have what you want and you don't have money. Okay? It just is what it is. And these are the flags, the red flags that I see women have. And I'm not saying men don't have any. Men have plenty. They have plenty. But I'm saying flags that men need to look out for. Just because she's beautiful doesn't mean she's educated enough for your children. Just because she's beautiful doesn't mean 5, 4, 5, 6, 7 baby daddies, you're going to be the one that sticks around. You're going to be the one that changes her. Okay? So you have to look at these things and make a judgment. Some women learn from their mistakes. But the way I look at it is, if you have 4 or 5 babies, you haven't learned from the mistakes. And you shouldn't be looking for anybody else until you look inside yourself, educate yourself on why you become pregnant when there's so many birth control methods on the market that you would decide to have children just randomly by anybody. Okay? But that's just my thought on it. So I'm just giving you my thought, and I'm Heathen Queen.